one thing that I've noticed is like these fans are so devoted and are so good that they pick up on stuff that make me look so bad because I'm like, I need to go and reread these scripts because I did not pick up on this. And like, yeah, I don't know, they meticulously find all of these little details and I'm like, you guys should also write the show because you come up with like the craziest theories. It's very impressive.
Well, we were talking earlier about how, well, which one do you want to start with?
What?
Want to start with Jackie or the Wilderness?
Yeah, we can talk about Jackie.
You and go ahead.
No, I feel like I just watched the finale. Incredible. And I feel like so Travis mentions like Jackie and Shauna slumber party makeouts. And my question is for you, like when you played Shauna, I guess during the pilot, like I was like, oh, she definitely has a crush on her.
Yeah.
Is that like how you saw it? Or is that like something you're also finding out with like all of the little comments that we're getting?
Someone brought that up to me 2 days ago and they're like, oh, slumber party makeouts. And I myself assumed that it was like, again, just Jackie making out with all the hot guys that Shauna wanted to make out with.
That's what I thought it was.
That's what I thought. And then someone was like, no, it was Jackie and Shauna making out. And I was like, that could make sense and would add a lot of layers to their relationship. Because I feel like I've done it with my girlfriends. Like, I mean, maybe not every girl, but I mean, I feel like most girls I know, there's always been that like little moment of like your best friend and you're like, should we make out? And then and it's just like, to me, it's just like normal, like teenage female friendship that you all have that one friend with who you've like experimented a little. And there's always that weird line where you're like, you know where you stand, but it's always a little ambiguous where like the other person stands. And then it creates this like weird tension, this like unspokenness. And I feel like that is maybe what Jackie and Shauna had.
Yeah, there were times where I was like, does Shauna, I think Shauna wants to be Jackie. And I was like, wait, maybe that means Shauna wants to be with Jackie.
I think it's like a little bit of both.
I think it is
so
both.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then she kind of does become Jackie because she literally ingests her. And
she eats Jackie.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Wild.
Well, the other one we were talking about is the wilderness and how everyone thinks the wilderness wants, somebody to be sacrificed. And we're like, the wilderness isn't real. You're the wilderness. You want to see people die.
Yeah. Oh, that Shauna's. Yeah.
Shauna's the wilderness.
Like, I know. And I think that's the very interesting switch this season that I feel is like the most terrifying because so far they'd only, I feel like, killed people out of survival instincts. But this year Shauna's fully doing this out of her own will and own doing.
She's making these decisions.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing. And I feel like these are the events that will haunt her the most and that will haunt her forever because she's crossed a line that is a little bit unforgivable. Yeah, and I feel for her and like I know there's been a lot of like controversy for Shauna and I feel like a lot of people are like she's just so mean. Mm-hmm. Yes, she is. But I love a villain and especially the showrunners have done such a good job at making her parkour so beautifully crafted that you feel for her still. Like, I feel like I root for her despite all of her wrongdoings because you understand where she comes from. You understand all of the built up trauma and like all of the guilt that she carries on her shoulder. And like, she's so unequipped to deal with all of that. Like, how else are you going to respond? Like, I just feel like it's a normal kind of behavior to take all of the grief and all the sadness and to project it onto other people. And she has no idea of how to cope with these feelings and needs to bring other people down to make herself feel better. And I don't think that that's like, I mean, obviously it doesn't mean that it's okay, but I do empathize with her and find some sort of like, yeah, I think that to some extent she's doing the best she can.
I appreciate that as somebody who my friends get mad at me.
Do they hate her?
No, they get mad at me because I'm kind of a Shauna apologist. I'm like, no, I see it. Like, I'm like, she lost her baby. Like, what are we doing? Like,
that is traumatizing.
It is.
Yeah. It's a big deal.
What was it like to film that scene? Well, first giving birth And then do
Yeah.
they eat the baby? We were discussing that earlier. Do they eat the baby?
They definitely
I
did.
think
I think they do.
I think
I think they do.
I think we didn't. I think that was like the line that we.
That's where they
couldn't
draw the
cro- Yeah,
line. We
that's
can
where
eat
they
our
were like,
friends, not
"We'll
our
lose
children."
everyone." We've already a lot of my friends tapped out at that episode. They're like, you guys have hit another level," and we're like, we can't eat that. That's just another level that we weren't ready to commit to. I mean, it was first of all, I felt very like honored to be given that piece of like material because it's so like heavy and as an actor I love to do things that are out of my comfort zone and I've never had to undergo such events. And it was also scary because I felt like it came with some sense of responsibility because I feel like we don't necessarily showcase enough like tragic stories like those. Like we talk about pregnancy often as something that is beautiful and it is and it's it can be a very pleasant experience for a lot of women, but we rarely touch and shed light on stories that are a little more traumatic and that didn't go so well. And so I felt some sort of responsibility to showcase that story with a lot of like respect for the women that have undergone that. And it was a very like sensible subject to approach on set. And you don't know what like the crew members have been through or whomever has been through. And I just was like, I talked a lot with the director because she has had children and also with women in my entourage, my mom and people that I know, just because I wanted to give an accurate representation and what that could feel like and look like having never been through it on my own.
As an actor, what season was the most challenging for you?
I would say that one. And then that episode specific, like season 2 and then specifically that episode because of the heaviness of the content. We also lost all of the footage. And so I had to reshoot.
Oh wow!
No way.
Yeah. That was out of every scene. I was like, really? Yeah, we lost like not the entirety of the episode, but like some of like the bigger moments in there. They're like, so we're gonna need to reshoot. So having to go through it twice was a lot, just like very physically demanding. But it was really beautiful to see how obviously this episode is centered around Shauna, but like I definitely couldn't have done that episode without the help of like every single girl because there was just like such a sense of like support and they gave me so much to feed off of, like seeing the horror and in their eyes and the distress and I think that's what kind of like kept me going and what made me, I don't know, I guess act even better. So yeah, I think it showcased just how like strong we are as like a unit.